It is officially January 29th and I have been wanting to make this video for literally so long. Some of my favorite videos to watch are tier ranking videos, and I also love an end of year wrap up. So this is like chef's kiss. Thank you for watching this video. If you're here, if you clicked on it, I know I'm a little late to the game, but I have a ballroom dancing competition that takes place in January and it always takes over my life. But I knew that I had to make this video because it is just too fun and I didn't want to miss out. So thank you for being here. I ended up reading 55 books in the month of 2025. In the year of 2025, which is the most books I've ever read in a year. I really hit my reading groove and I had some really good books, found some of my all-time favorites, and I also had some not so good books also. I did have 2 DNFs, which I did not include in this tier ranking because I didn't have a tier for DNFs. But what I do have, top tier is Made My Whole Year. Right below that is Had a Really Good Time. I loved them. They just didn't make the like 5-star Made My Whole Year category. And then Would Recommend, I liked it, but it maybe wasn't earth-shattering. And then Forgot I Read It, so it was a little bit not memorable. And then Not For Me, as in I literally did not like it. I would not recommend it. I would not pick it up again. And maybe wouldn't even pick up something else by the author. We'll see. I did get highly inspired by Sarah Caroli's tiers, so I took some of hers and modified them. I will link her video down below. Give credit where credit is due. So let's just jump right in. I have to get down to business. I have to get to the fun. And the first book I am seeing here is Believe Me by Tahara Mafi, and this is part of the YA series called Shatter Me. And I'm gonna do something that's maybe controversial, and I am going to group this whole series together. I don't know if this is like a bad thing to do, but to be honest, there are so many books in this series and there are so many little novellas, and I couldn't differentiate them to put them in their own category. So I'm going to group this series as, I'm between Would Recommend and Had a Really Good Time. I think I'm gonna do Had a Really Good Time because I do feel like this series was a big part of my year. And I think at the time I would have classified it as Had a Really Good Time. I think looking back on it, I maybe would put it as more of Would Recommend, but I don't know. It was just so fun and I don't know. I'm gonna put it here because it's not that serious. But I will say I definitely liked some of these books better than others. I gave some books in this series 5 stars. I gave some books in this series 3 stars. So, I mean, all of these books wouldn't necessarily be in this category, but for the sake of keeping the series all together, that's what I'm going to do. Oh, look, I already missed some. Wow, see, there's so many books in this series. That's wild. Okay, well, that's 11 books right off the bat. Next, we have Daughter of the Pirate King. This is another YA fantasy book, and I loved this. I definitely had a really good time. I could almost go higher, but I'm not going to. But I loved this book, and I haven't read the second book in the series yet, so I'm excited to do that here soon. Now we have, oh, and let me just say, this does not go in the order that I read these books. This is just the order that the novel covers got uploaded into the tier maker software. So next we have Face Off by Chelsea Curto. I read this for a book club. It was actually, I believe it was the last book I read in 2025. And let me just say, not for me. I skipped the majority of the spicy scenes because I just couldn't take it. And I'm not somebody who normally skims or skips parts of books, but this was just way too much. The language was too much, the spice was too much, and I do not think I am a sports romance girly, so not for me. Holiday romance. This is obviously a holiday romance if the title doesn't give it away. Friends to Lovers. I really loved this. I think it made my holiday season. I think that's accurate. I don't know that I can say it made my whole year, but it really made the winter holiday season enjoyable. And then I read Honestly, I'm Totally Faking It by Amanda Gamble. This is a indie published book. Fake dating with a politician, and I think, does she clean for him? I think she cleans for him. This one, would recommend. Would recommend. Definitely. Then If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia. This was like the book of the fall, and I'm going to say would recommend. It's really cute, Gilmore Girl vibes. I don't know, just heartwarming, I guess is the way I would describe it. Small town. Then we have Christina Lauren's In a Holidays. I had a really good time reading this. You guys, I had so many good holiday reads this year, and I don't normally do holiday reads, but I'm gonna start reading more Christmas stories because every single one I read, I loved. Okay, we have another Julia Olivia book on Midnight Shores. I'm gonna say had a really good time. This is a very spicy book, and if you read what the book is about, you'll know why. He's basically giving her spice lessons, but something about it, even so, their emotional connection and their relationship, I just loved so much. So had a really good time with this one. Okay, then we have the Shadow and Bone series. And I didn't forget I read it. I will say would recommend. I almost feel like I need another category here because I do, oh dear. I do feel as though the Shadow and Bone series is not on the same tier as If It Makes You Happy and Honestly, I'm Totally Faking It. But I didn't forget that I read it. You know what? I'm gonna put it down here. Even though I didn't actually forget that I read it. However, I never think about it. That's why I'm gonna put it in that tier. Okay, Silver Elite by Dani Francis. Such a controversial book. I hope it's not AI because I don't support AI in the arts. However, I had a really good time. It just gave such Divergent vibes, which was exactly what I wanted in that moment, and it gave me what I was craving. And for that reason, I'm putting had a really good time. I didn't love the writing. I actually felt like it didn't flow scene to scene. Like there could be something really emotional happening in one scene and it would transition into the next scene, and it wouldn't address the emotional follow through or like the fallout of the previous scene. So I didn't love the writing, but the book just gave me what I needed in that moment. Okay, then we have The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is the second book to The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And so I'm gonna do this one first, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And I'm gonna go had a really good time. I also loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I did not like the second book as much. So I would recommend if you read the first book to go ahead and read the second book. I just personally thought the first book was better. And I decided to stop the series here after The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Because this was the last book following these set of main characters, their little duets. So that's my 2 cents. Then we have The Heir by Sophia Travers. This is another indie published book, and I love that I got a little bit more into indie published books this year. I'm gonna put Forgot I Read It. Again, I didn't literally forget that I read it, but I never ever think about it. Okay, The Love Haters by Catherine Center. This is my least favorite Catherine Center book I've read to date. I've also read The Bodyguard, which I enjoyed, and I've read The Rom-Commers, which I loved. And this one did not hit the same for me. So I'm gonna put Forgot I Read It. Again, didn't literally, but it just was not memorable. And maybe that's what I should have titled this tier. Then we have The Spell Shop. This is a wild, wild idea. I'm going to put it in Made My Whole Year. I don't know if that's accurate. Wow, that feels like a bold statement to make. However, this was my first cozy fantasy I ever read, and I feel like it really opened up my eyes. It opened me up to this new genre. I gave the book 5 stars, and it just feels like a warm hug. And I remember after I finished reading it that I felt like it reminded me why I love to read, and that's why I'm gonna put it in Made My Whole Year, the very first book in that tier. Okay, and we're taking a steep turn now. We have The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. Let me tell you, not for me. Not even a little bit. This book made me so mad. It is so toxic and abusive. Check the trigger warnings. Like, it's not okay. Do not like, do not recommend. I only read this for a book club again, and no. Actually the same book club as Face Off, so maybe I should choose a different book club because I'm not liking these books one bit. Okay, and then we, oh my gosh, I need a moment to recover from how upset that book gets me. I don't know how people can do it, but I do not like anything dark. I do not like toxic. I do not like abusive. Like, no, that's not what we want to fill our brains with. On a much lighter note, let's do Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, and I'm gonna put this in Made My Whole Year. Again, that feels a little wild, but I just really love this. I love magical realism. It just really, really worked. It reminded me of The 7-Year Slip, which is one of my all-time favorite books, and I loved the Christmas element here. I loved some of the mystery. I loved their relationship. So I'm gonna put it in Made My Whole Year. I feel good about that. Okay, Juniper Hill. Literally probably forgot that I read this until I made this tier ranker. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I really contemplate putting it in Not For Me, but the other books I put in Not For Me, I like strongly disliked. I didn't strongly dislike this book. It wasn't my favorite. I felt like the FMC spent a lot of time crying, which she did just have a baby and she was going through a lot, so I understand, but it's the most I've ever read about an FMC crying. And I mean, girl, I can relate. I'd be crying in that situation too, but I don't know why, that just felt really repetitive to read about it. So I didn't love it, but I'm gonna keep it in Forgot I Read It because the Not For Me category just feels a little bit too strong at this point. I'm gonna clump the ACOTAR series together again, and I am just going to put it in Made My Whole Year. I don't know why I'm trying to like order the books. And I also feel like, why do I not remember the order? But I feel like these books really catapulted me into my reading era. And so they changed the trajectory of my year, and they definitely made my whole year. They're my new favorite book series. Enough said. You guys know about ACOTAR. Okay. The Spell Shop, I guess I accidentally put in here twice, so we will ignore that. The Love of My Afterlife. I'm gonna put this in Made My Whole Year because I feel like it's on the same tier as Good Spirits and The Spell Shop for me. I love this book. I know some people it was way too silly, it was way too goofy for them. I think again because it had some of that magical element to it, I really enjoyed that, and it was very uplifting. It was very uplifting and feel good, and that's just my kind of book. And I feel like the books that I'm putting in this Made My Whole Year category are ones that have helped shape my taste and help me better understand what I like to read, and so that's why I'm going to put it there. Flawless by Elsie Silver, not for me. I don't think I'll ever read another Elsie Silver book. It's just too... the relationships are too physical and not enough on the emotional, and that's just not the kind of romance I like to read. So personally, not for me. I know a lot of people love these books, and that's okay. I'm in the same boat actually with The Graham Effect, 2 in a row. I Feel Bad by Elle Kennedy. I'm gonna say not for me. Again, purely just because the relationship is a lot of physical, and that's not what I enjoy reading about. Okay, the Powerless series. I am going to put Powerless and Had a Really Good Time because I gave Powerless 5 stars. I was over the moon when I read this book. I was so excited to continue the trilogy. However, with Reckless and Fearless, it went downhill for me. I want to put Reckless and like would recommend, and then I want to put Fearless and not for me. However, I would recommend, I didn't like Fearless, but how can I recommend 2 out of the 3 books in a trilogy and not just have somebody else finish the 3rd book? So I'm going to put Fearless in would recommend. However, it probably wasn't actually for me. It literally was a decline. Powerless, Reckless, Fearless. It just kept going downhill for me. So keep that in mind. I didn't actually like Fearless, but I do not feel like I can tell people to read 2 books in a trilogy and not tell them to finish it. So there's that. Made for Each Other, I actually quite literally did forget that I read this book. It was my first Lynn Painter and it just did not wow me. There wasn't anything wrong with it per se, but it wasn't very memorable in my mind. I do want to give another Lynn Painter book a try though. Same Time Next Summer by Annabel Monaghan. Annabel Monaghan is one of my favorite authors. I'm going to put this in would recommend. She's one of my favorite authors. This was not my favorite book by her. I think this is actually my least favorite book of hers that I've read. But I still would recommend it. I mean, it's a fun summer read, just not my all-time favorite. Onyx Storm, I'm gonna say made my whole year because this kicked off my year. It was the only book I read in January of 2025. Yeah, I think that loving Onyx Storm pushed me to read ACOTAR, and again, that just led me on a really good trajectory, so I'm happy about it. And I know some people didn't love this book, but I enjoyed it. I had no bad notes. Like, it was a good follow-up to Iron Flame, I think, personally. Okay, The Rose Bargain. This is one of my favorite covers. I'm gonna put this in Had a Really Good Time. This is a YA fantasy or romantasy, and it's just so fun. It's a love triangle with 2 brothers, and it very much is giving the Selection vibe. I also enjoyed how there were so many different POVs in the book. I think this is the first book that I've read that really does that, and I thought it worked well, and I thought that the author like really fledged out all the side characters to be able to do that, and that was just fun to me. Okay, Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. I loved Wilder. I loved his character. I loved his personality. But again, for the same reasons about the physicality, I'm going to put it in not for me, but I have to say I feel bad because I think his character is like so good. I love him as a book boyfriend, but yeah, I'm putting it down here. A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn as well. Same thing. I actually enjoyed Till Summer Do Us Part more because I love Wilder's character so much. Okay, I'm actually gonna jump to the back of the list, and my reason will become obvious in a second. Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry. Absolutely loved. Absolutely obsessed. A really good time. I have a whole video 18 minutes long of me rambling on about this book, so if you want to hear it, I'll link it down below, but made my whole year. And then because I love the premise of Shield of Sparrows so much, I read The Bridge Kingdom, which has a similar premise about a princess being married off to a prince from a different country. And I didn't love this one as much, but I still had a really good time or would recommend. I think I'm gonna do would recommend, but I did have a good time as well. But this was a solid follow-up if you really like Shield of Sparrows or this idea of an arranged marriage because of a peace treaty. Like, I think it's a pretty cool idea. It's entertaining. It's something different. So then I read Hard Launch, which is another indie published book. I'm gonna put this in Made My Whole Year because again, I think this really helped define my book taste. It's friends to lovers. It felt really healthy and something really realistic. Like if these 2 characters existed in real life, I would genuinely and truly be rooting for them. And I think that's huge, and that's not something I can say about all books. And so I really, really liked that aspect of this book. It was also really cool to read because it takes place on a music tour, and I just think that's like an interesting premise and not something I've read before. Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is wild to say, but this book was not for me. Kind of upset me a little bit, and that's wild because it's my least favorite Emily Henry book, which is funny because I feel like I've said this year that I've read a few of my favorite authors' least favorite books, my least favorite books of my favorite authors this year. Wow, how do you say that? But wow, I duplicated. Honestly, I'm totally faking it too, which I knew I had one extra on here, but having 2 extras means that I've left a book off the list, which is like, oops. I'll have to go back and I'll figure out which book I left off the list and I'll let you guys know. But moving on, we have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the 2nd book in the When in Rome series. And I'll just say, would recommend. I think it's like a solid 3.5 stars for me. I actually liked it better than When in Rome. And yeah, it's enjoyable, just like a sweet closed door romance, but it's not like blow your mind earth shattering. And then One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I loved this book. I loved the MMC in this book. I would also accept him as my book boyfriend. I'm putting it in had a really good time. And we're done. We have tier ranked every book I read last year except for potentially one, which I will do some detective work and figure out what that may have been. Overall, I feel like I had a really good reading year. There's a lot of books that were a really good time and that made my year, and I'd say that's a win. Even the books that I didn't like so much, they helped me figure out my reading taste, and also, you know, 2 of them I read for book club, so I still got to be in community and like chat with girls about it and have connection with other bookish girlies. So still a win, and overall just like tells me what to read less of, and now I know that, and you don't know until you try. So I would say 2025 was a success. Thank you for being here, for being a part of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you felt differently about any of these books that I tier ranked, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these books, or let me know what your favorite book you read of 2025 was. Whatever you want to comment, let's just start the conversation down below. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you again soon.